It's no secret that I am addicted to Super Mecha Champions. I've been playing for around 4 months and I've already achieved Alpha Knight back in Season 3, and now top 3 Hot Steel in Season 4. Although the leaderboard is more of a measure of how much you play rather than skill, I'll teach you everything you need to know about Hot Steel. It's worth noting that linked in the description will be an existing Hot Steel guide, shoutouts to Amima, but it's been 9 months since and I wanted to go into more detail than they did. Big boy. Massive man. Large and in charge. There's a lot of things that come to mind when you see Hot Steel in the field, but as the Hot Steel, there are a lot of things to keep in mind, the largest being your HP. Literally. Having the highest durability and shield in the game is a benefit, but you're likely to become an immediate target because of it. At its most basic level, Hot Steel has 7 shots to a clip with a 2.2 second reload time. Each shot has a primary explosive, with 4 smaller rockets circling the primary. By holding space, Hot Steel can fly to reach rooftops or demeched players trying to retreat. His Q is an explosive charge, sending you forward in the direction that you look. This can be stopped early by pressing Q again, performing a punch that sends a fan of flames in front of you. Your heat gauge will fill passively, but hitting primary shots will give a small boost to the gauge as well. Upon acting overheat, you'll have increased movement speed and fire rate, for a length of time dependent on how full the gauge is, up to 20 seconds. Finally, right-click will send out a large thermal fusion missile, dealing a lot of damage, increased further by Core 2, which we'll get to later. Both of these abilities have a 10-second cooldown. Because all of Hot Steel's attacks are explosions, this means he has no benefit to landing headshots. As long as you hit the target, you'll do base damage. However, explosions also mean that in the event that you miss, there's a good chance you'll get some, albeit reduced, splash damage. Just as his HP is a strength, it can be a weakness too. Playing a very aggressive mech means you'll be taking a lot of damage. If you don't have the resources to sustain yourself between fights, you can find yourself at an easy disadvantage. Projectile speed is also something to be aware of. Although your primary can fly the distance, it'll take a long time to get to far off opponents, so long distance engagements and mobile enemies like Hurricane and Michael can be difficult to fight. Just because you're the tankiest doesn't mean you shouldn't use cover. Simply not taking any damage before a fight is better than testing just how much of a bullet sponge you are. Trust me, it's not as much as you think. Your choice of attack modules are Presence, which increases AoE and damage of explosive charge, or Clip, which increases the clip size by up to 3. Due to Hot Steel's generally slow fire rate and the option to use abilities during reload time, it's not often you empty your clip without safely being able to reload, so Presence is the obvious choice. Defense modules are Unyielding, which reduces damage by up to 20% for 4 seconds after using explosive charge, or Iron Wall, which... I'll maybe real with you, I don't know what this thing does, so NetEase, please fix your translations. Propulsion modules give you a choice between March for up to plus 30% primary weapon velocity, or Fighting Spirit, which increases passive heat gauge accumulation by up to 20 per second. Default passive gain is 30 per second, and the entire tank has a total of 1500 points. This means without Fighting Spirit, the gauge takes 50 seconds to fill without landing any shots. With a green module, that drops to 37.5. With a blue, 32, and only 30 seconds with a purple. The main issue with Fighting Spirit is the fact that doing damage to anything with your primary will fill the gauge, be it enemy mech, players, or creeps. It's not often you won't have overheat available to you in a fight as long as you're attacking. The extra shot velocity helps pick up on his weakness anyway. The core modules are a less obvious choice. With these, it really depends on your playstyle. Core 1 Battle Frenzy gives 10% lifesteal on overheat mode, while Core 2 Soul of Steel increases damage of the fusion missile by consuming all remaining heat in the gauge. The amount of extra damage depends on how much was consumed. A direct hit with Core 1 does 600 damage. Core 2 direct hit with a full gauge consumed is a max of 850 in a single shot. I have personally become flexible enough to use both Core 1 and Core 2 depending on what my team needs. If you have an Alvarado on your team with Core 2, the plus 900 shield combined with Hot Steel's Core 1 can become very difficult to deal with. With Core 2, an extra 250 damage on your fusion missile is always nice to have, especially if you're playing solo. I've seen a lot of different loadouts out there, and Amima's guide showcases a few. Because my aim sucks, I personally like to run Area of Explosion mods. This doubles in my favor as I have a much easier time hitting pilots inside a building. However, reload rate, shot velocity, and fire rate are all very good modifiers as well. On the defense side of things, Hot Steel benefits the greatest from percent durability and shield increases, and damage reduction mods help keep you alive even longer. If you want to be more aggressive, reload rate or life drain add a nice payoff to landing attacks. Ning's plus 210 durability is the obvious choice for going maximum tank. Ivan's shield conversion can be nice to have since it makes healing the mass amount of HP easier. Joanna's extra fuel can be useful to maintain mobility, and Cyrus's reload rate is just generally good in almost any scenario. Hey, so editing TSG here. In the middle of making this, Serena just dropped, and yeah, Ivan's kinda obsolete. I can see use cases for almost all of the stones. Skill cooldowns help you have more readily available burst damage. The bonus shield on call makes for safe mech in the middle of combat. Fuel helps further with mobility, and life drain can complete a lifesteal build using core 1 and life drain modifiers. But the trade-off damage hurts what Hot Steel has going for him in the first place. I personally use the plus 1200 shield, but not in the conventional way. The first time you redeem the stone, it counts as if you had just called your mech, meaning if you wait until you just enter combat, then redeem it quickly, you have a 1200 shield for the full 4 seconds, eliminating the call animation in which you are unable to act. This can easily turn an unwinnable fight into a winnable one, but can only be abused once per match. There's a lot of terminals to cover on why you should or shouldn't use them, so I'll just list the ones that I go for the most, in no particular order. Eye for an Eye, Race Against Time, Instant Recharge, Energy Field, Never Give Up, Fiery Instinct, Crazy Doll, Savage Growth, and Homogenizing Siphon. Animation cancelling is key. A slow and heavy mech has to be efficient when dealing with a more versatile enemy. My personal bread and butter Hot Steel combo is shown here. I cancel the first shot cooldown with E to immediately fire a second shot. Depending on how much health I have left, I either shoot 4 more primaries or start the next part of the combo ASAP. After firing, I press Q to close in or deal more damage. Immediately fire again to end lag cancel, and then right click. If you save one shot during your volley of primaries after activating overheat, you'll enter reload just before shooting the thermal fusion missile as a combo finisher. It's worth noting that the missile is the only thing in Hot Steel's loadout that can't be animation cancelled, as it was patched in a previous update. Since Hot Steel, for some reason, can fly, you'll want to take advantage of it whenever possible. By flying directly above a mech and shooting down, you're able to stay in a grounded mech's blind spot to avoid taking damage. Speaking of, another technique taught to me by Amima is a faster method of flight. Normally when in the air and holding right click, you'll be suspended at the height you were and can strafe. But looking up and holding W while doing so will raise you faster than just holding down space. The downside to this technique is that it requires you to have your right click off of cooldown, which happens in very few scenarios as it's your largest sum of damage and you want to be using it whenever possible. So there you have it. You're now a Hot Steel master. If you've made it all the way to the end, I want to thank you for sticking with me. If there's anything you think I missed, or if you want to see a similar style guide for another mech, drop your thoughts down in the comments. Until next time, bye bye.
Shit. Oh, you know what? Still take this portal. Still take this.
Yeah, still take it. Leave it. Leave
Wait
it.
for it.
They're waiting.
can't
for
aim.
you.
Wait a second. I swear to God.
Hi.
What?